You could be mistaken for thinking that Charles Leclerc is at a bit of a crossroads in his career at the moment. He's driving for a top team, he's got a contract for next year, he's a race winner, he's had multiple pole positions, but the one thing that still eludes him in his career is a world championship. But if we're being honest, he looks no closer to achieving this. Time and time again, year after year, we are talking about the same thing, that Ferrari is simply not delivering a car for its drivers that is capable of fighting for a world championship over a season. And this is obviously having an impact on the morale of the drivers and the team. And this now leaves potentially Leclerc in a very sticky situation and puts him in a position where he has to make a potentially big decision regarding his future. But with Ferrari realistically still nowhere near close enough to winning a world championship and Charles' contract expiring at the end of 2024, does this mean that Charles has to consider leaving Ferrari if he wants to achieve his dream of becoming a world champion? Or does he retain enough patience, belief and faith that Ferrari will eventually come good and give him a car that is capable of winning a championship? Well, it's understandably easy to go with the former because Leclerc's frustrations were once again tested at the US Grand Prix over the weekend with a poor strategy executed by Ferrari that saw Leclerc go from pole position after a great lap in qualifying to finishing the race in 6th before he was disqualified for a technical infringement. Although Ferrari clearly did not have the pace to match Red Bull, Mercedes or McLaren in Austin, the fact that they tried to execute a one-stop strategy while most went for a two-stop kind of shows the position that they're in at the moment, because they're just in desperation looking for a solution, any alternatives to try and get the best result possible. It's almost like they're trying to pull a rabbit out of a hat. And it's not the first time that Charles Leclerc has questioned the strategy that Ferrari has put him on this season, or indeed in past seasons. Leclerc's pole in Austin was his third pole position of 2023, but he hasn't managed to convert any of those poles into victories this season. And this actually stretches back into 2022. He's currently actually on a run of his last 10 pole positions have not been turned into victories, and this has actually played a major role in why he has not won a race for over 12 months. His last victory was at last year's Austrian Grand Prix. But we can't just apportion all the blame on Ferrari for Leclerc's winless streak. Leclerc himself has to accept that he is partly responsible for this run that he's on, due to the amount of mistakes that he's made over the past 12 to 18 months, let's say. It's cost him countless points and lots of chances of more victories. In fact, I did talk about this issue earlier in the year over the fact that Leclerc was making a lot of mistakes and was becoming a bit error prone, and that this was becoming a problem. But as the season has gone on, he does seem to have cut out those mistakes, but I think that's actually more down to the fact that Ferrari is not in a position to fight for a world championship, so Leclerc doesn't have to overdrive the car. So looking at Leclerc's situation more closely, his current contract runs up to the end of 2024. This was the deal that he signed at the end of 2019, which was his first year with Ferrari, and at the time he signed a 5-year deal, which was unprecedented for any Ferrari driver throughout the team's history, because even Michael Schumacher, when he was winning his world championships with them, didn't get a deal of this length. As he prepares to enter the final year of his contract, Charles has been asked countless times by the media this year over whether he will re-sign with Ferrari and extend his current contract beyond 2024. And Charles has given a clear indication that this will be the case. He will re-sign and stay with Ferrari for the foreseeable future, citing that he wants to not just be a Formula One world champion, he wants to be a world champion with Ferrari. But that brings us back to the main question, and that is, does Leclerc just have to accept that this dream may not become a reality? He's clearly capable of winning a world championship, but is he more likely to achieve this outside of Ferrari than with Ferrari? And this is a situation that is kind of similar to what Sebastian Vettel went through. Vettel had a clear ambition, a clear dream to win a world championship with Ferrari. He grew up watching his hero Michael Schumacher over the fence at Fiorano, dreaming of driving for Ferrari. And of course, after winning his world championships with Red Bull, he made the move to Ferrari in 2015, and his dream was realised, but he wasn't able to achieve a world championship. He came close in 2017 and 2018, but failed to beat Lewis Hamilton in the title fight. Now we know that Leclerc has been linked several times with a move away from Ferrari, which of course is no surprise because he is an extremely talented driver. I would probably arguably put him as the fastest driver on the grid, particularly over one lap. But there probably are still some areas that he's not up to scratch compared to other drivers on the grid. And maybe it would be good for him to leave Ferrari, because we know just how much of a pressured environment it is. You're not just driving for Ferrari, you're driving for Italy, and you immediately feel the weight of expectations on your shoulders. I think that it is fair to say that Leclerc's talent is not being rewarded. If you look at his career stats, they are extremely disappointing for a driver of his calibre. He's now in his 6th season in F1, and it's still mind-blowing to me that he's only got 5 race wins, 2 of them coming in his first season at Ferrari in 2019, and he won 3 races last year in 2022. But apart from that, he's not been able to add to his tally. Obviously, as I've already mentioned, there were countless times where he has blown his chances of a race win through a mistake. But he's also had a lot of bad luck as well. If you look back to the amount of times that he's had reliability problems, you think last year in Baku in Spain when he was leading the race and the engine blew. It's those factors that have had a major contribution to why he only has those 5 race wins. If you look at Charles' stats for this season, they also don't make for good reading. But I think this is more of a reflection of where Ferrari is at the moment and the fact that they cannot fight for a title. Aside from the 3 pole positions, he's only got the 3 podium finishes, which ironically have all come on a sprint weekend. But it's these stats, not just for this season as a whole, but over his career, that make it look like he's a bit of an underachiever and that he's not getting the most out of himself as a driver. And this is the risk that Charles risks taking if he decides to re-sign with Ferrari, because if they're not able to improve their form in 2024 and 2025 and then going into the new rule cycle in 2026, he could be left in a position where he's looking back on this particular time in his career thinking, I underachieved, I didn't get the results that I should have been getting. But the worry for Leclerc is that if he does have a change of heart and decides to leave Ferrari, there aren't many options out there that he could take that will give him a car that is capable of achieving his ambition to become a world champion. Mercedes has admitted in the past that they would be very open to putting Leclerc in one of their cars, but now they've got their driver lineup secure for the next couple of seasons, with George Russell and Lewis Hamilton tied down until the end of 2025. It's the same story with McLaren, because Lando Norris has a contract up until the end of 2025 and Piastri is contracted until the end of 2026. The only way that Leclerc could find himself in a seat at McLaren is if Red Bull does decide to buy out Lando from his current contract to place him alongside Max Verstappen in their team. As for Red Bull, I think this move is extremely unlikely, because I think both Charles and Red Bull have got no interest in making this happen. I think that for Charles, he would not want to go up against Max in the same car, because it could end up being quite a demoralising situation, that he would walk into a team that is so geared around Max and the car is based around Max's driving style and capabilities, that he would have to try and adapt to that, and most likely will be playing catch up, always chasing Max, always having that deficit that he's got to try and close down, whether it be in qualifying or over a race distance. The only other team realistically that Leclerc could move to would be Aston, because realistically they're the only other team on the grid that could give him a car that is capable of fighting for regular podiums, victories, and maybe even put him in a position where he could fight for the World Championship. But this is also dependent on their current drivers. We know that Lance Stroll has a rolling contract and that Fernando Alonso's contract runs out at the end of 2025 if he takes up the option at the end of 2024. So there is no guarantee that he could make the move to Aston even if he wanted to. Looking at Leclerc's situation from a distance, the more I think about it, the more I'm led to believe that he will re-sign with Ferrari. But I think that's more down to the fact that there are limited options for him to move elsewhere. He's almost backed into a corner with no alternatives. But there are reasons for him to be optimistic that Ferrari can continue improving in the future. There's no doubt that they have made progress this season. Fred Vasseur has done a credible job in his first season as team principal. So overall, I think the verdict is still up in the air as to whether Leclerc needs to leave Ferrari to become a world champion. There's no doubt that there are better alternatives at this point in time that could give him a car that is capable of winning a world championship. But I think there are enough signs to suggest that Ferrari is heading in the right direction and could well be in a position to be challenging for world championships in the near future. So I don't think it would necessarily be a bad decision if he decided to renew his contract with Ferrari and commit his future to the team. So now I want to hear where you guys stand on this. Do you think that Charles Leclerc needs to leave Ferrari in order to become a world champion? Or do you think that he should actually commit his future to the team in the long term? Be sure to let me know in the comment section. And also don't forget to leave a like on the video and to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching guys, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.